Project Zomboid is a very dark place, with many walking horrors to give you an extremely bad time. To distract yourself from the walking corpses and smell of rotting guts, you might decide to binge watch movies or VHS tapes, and maybe even learn some valuable skills whilst doing so. That is, until you pick up the wrong VHS tape, which turns you into a nervous mess, or if you believe the stories of our fellow players, then the tape will mark you and leave your very soul cursed forever. This is a story about the mystery tapes of the Dog Goblin.
Have you ever heard of the Dog Goblin? No. Well, his fingers are sliced off, and he has electrified claws jammed into his bloodied hands. And if you look into a moonlit pool, and you say his name 4 times, he'll appear behind you, and he'll want your life, tied down to some very specific parameters.
And if I say no?
You won't dare say no.
Dog Goblin.
No, don't do it.
Dog Goblin. Dog Goblin. Dog Goblin.
He'll kill us all.
Tape 1 ends with blood-gurgling screams which leaves no survivors, except for the one who brings the story to the table, for he will reappear on later tapes to tell the story of the Dog Goblin once again. Could he just be a lucky survivor of these incidents? Or is he purposely spreading the word of the Dark Dog Goblin, perhaps to sacrifice people and ultimately keep himself from becoming prey to the Dog Goblin himself? It could of course also be that he's just oblivious to the possible consequences of him spreading the Dog Goblin's name, but how could he be after seeing everyone around him perish? Perhaps in this case, ignorance truly is bliss. To fully understand the mystery of the Dog Goblin, we must first lay out what the Dog Goblin really is. The person explaining the Dog Goblin mentions that he has sliced off fingers, which then got replaced with electrified claws. This hints that the Dog Goblin might be some kind of experimental man-made creature, very similar to that of Frankenstein. In tape 1, we also learned that the Dog Goblin appears behind you whenever you speak its name 3 or 4 times. This is very similar to the folklore of Bloody Mary, which is a vengeful spirit that will appear in front of you instead of behind you when chanting her name, just for her to then mercilessly give you the guillotine treatment. Now, where the ghost of Bloody Mary requires a mirror to be summoned, the Dog Goblin requires you to look in a moonlit pool, which in many ways kind of acts like a mirror, where he will then claim your life with his electrified claws. Both Bloody Mary and the Dog Goblin appear to have as goals to commit mass murder and stalk their prey to the end of the earth. At this stage we might not know much about the Dog Goblin itself, but we do learn more about the one spreading its tail, which allows us to speculate somewhat about the Dog Goblin and its origins. So to truly understand what is going on, we are going to need more information. So let's insert tape 2 of the Dog Goblin franchise.
Sure is nice to be in Germany after the year I've had. 4 of my friends shredded by the Dog Goblin's electrified claws.
Yeah, Charity. We were so sad to hear about that. Let's take your mind off of that, yeah? Tonight let us enjoy the sight of Z's moonlit pool.
Yeah, Dieter's right. And all the locals are talking about the strange discovery, deep in the town's well.
Oh yeah, the corpse of a huge hairy creature with claws.
They're calling it Der Hundekobold. Doesn't that translate to?
Dog Goblin? Is that the correct English? Dog Goblin?
I think Dog Goblin is correct either. Is Dog Goblin correct, Charity? No, not 3 or more times.
Was he star?
Der Hundekobold, 99. Oh no, not again.
During tape 2, we learn the name of the main survivor, which they refer to as Charity, with their highly accurate German accents. For the sake of the story, we would just have to assume Charity is a woman with a very deep voice, as I totally didn't fail to realize it was a female, after having done all the voice work for her. Now, after the events of tape 1, Charity now speaks at a show in Germany about her horrific tales, with there once again being a moonlit pool mentioned, which is a vital part in this creature's behavior and appears to be a strict requirement for the disasters to happen, even though in the first tape there was no real indication of there being one, at least not that we know of. This time around, the moonlit pool could be referencing to the moon reflecting itself in the mentioned well, although it does seem rather unlikely that they recorded this show right next to a well, so that is mere speculation. But with the host recklessly repeating the Dog Goblin's name, despite being fully aware of its risks, anything might be possible. This time there is a noticeable change in the story, as they speak of a discovery found deep within the well. They speak about the discovery of a huge hairy creature with claws, whom the Germans refer to as their Hundekobold, which does indeed translate to the Dog Goblin. Now this part raises many questions. Is the creature found in the well the real Dog Goblin, or is it just some malformed creature that drowned in the well? Now I personally think it's the latter, for the real creature seems to have some sort of power which is linked to the moon. Without the moon's reflection, you cannot summon the Dog Goblin, just like how you can't summon Bloody Mary without a mirror. It is their portal to the mortal realm, as you will. So as of now, the Dog Goblin seems more like some sort of supernatural being than an actual physical creature. So perhaps someone just found a weird malformed creature in the well. Or just maybe, the creature in the well wasn't actually dead, but that it was merely waiting for the right time to pounce on its prey. For after the mentioning of the Dog Goblin, it leads them all to their demise, once again.
Hi, Mom. So great to see you again.
Oh, Charity, we haven't seen you in so long, but I'm so glad you survived your encounters with that thing with the electrified claws.
I just hope I can put it all behind me now. Live a small town, quiet life. Oh, you built a new pool? I can see the moon reflected in it. Oh, who's the little guy?
Oh, he's the little puppy your dad found just last week. There was a tag around his neck. His name's Goblin.
Dog. Goblin?
No, honey. I said he's our dog, Goblin.
Oh no. How can this keep happening?
In tape 3, Charity meets up with her mother, with once again all the conditions being perfectly set out for Dog Goblin to be summoned. We've got the moon's reflection in a body of water where it can presumably crawl out of or get spawned by, similar to the ring and Bloody Mary. The strange thing here is the sudden appearance of the dog. The mother finds a puppy wearing a collar around its neck with the name Goblin on it, which deliberately gives a reason to say his name 3 or more times. These odds in itself are incredibly small, but she also doesn't mention the dog's name 3 times before meeting Charity, as the mother is still alive, even though she has had the dog for a week with that very name. And if she did speak the name of the dog 3 times before meeting Charity, then why did she not get taken by the Dog Goblin? Was there just no moon reflection inside that whole time? Well, she says that Charity's father is the one that initially found the dog, and the dad is currently nowhere to be seen. Perhaps he is the one that faced the first attack, or just maybe he's a little bit more sinister than that, and he is the one that attached the name Goblin to the puppy, knowing what outcome that would lead to. It could even be that the dad is the one that built the pool for this very reason, and that he is the one that got Charity cursed to begin with, but that's just a lot of cynical thinking and not the most likely theory. One thing we do know for sure is wherever Charity goes, people die. So our first theory of Charity purposely spreading the word of the Dog Goblin, as she is getting people killed whilst no harm is being done to her, is still very viable. She could be sacrificing them to save herself from becoming prey, or perhaps she sees the Dog Goblin as some sort of deity. It is also worth mentioning that Charity conveniently decides to tell the story every time there is a reflection of the moon. She could simply just talk about it during the day to prevent all this misery, instead of doing it late in the day with the moon out. This, combined with the evidence that the Dog Goblin seems to be man-made, makes Charity a very likely suspect. This theory gets even more strength in the final tape, where she has presumably infested every part of Earth and is now going into space.
Charity Copper to ground control. Entering the multi-nation space station now.
Welcome aboard, Major Copper. I'm Captain Asimov. Your first time in space?
Yes, sir. This is a dream come true.
We hear about what happened to you, but do not worry. There are no dog goblins in space.
That's all I needed to hear.
Come over here to the window. We are on the dark side of the Earth.
Oh wow, the moon looks so huge reflected in the ocean.
Yes, no dog goblins to worry about. See? Dog goblin. Huh. I should stop mentioning Dog Goblin. I won't say Dog Goblin again. What was that?
I know what it was. Space belongs to me, you son of a bitch. Dog Goblin. Space belongs to me.
This time, she's at the multinational space station. When Captain Asimov mentions there's no Dog Goblins in space, Charity responds with, "That is all I needed to hear." Perhaps for her to know that she's in the right place. In a place where she can spread its influence and give sacrifices beyond the boundaries of Earth, which she surely managed to spread. With nowhere else to go next and nothing else to sacrifice, she finally has to face the Dog Goblin herself, in the end. In this video I've taken a bit more of an out-of-the-box theory that I came up with. Charity could in reality really just be an unfortunate victim of a curse who's trying her very best to escape it. But I thought it would be a more fun approach to this mystery with a more sinister approach, one that matches a sinister story. My theory could also explain why the tapes are found in stores around the world, spreading its word one tape at a time. Now you might be thinking that it's a mere series of horror movies and that they're not real at all. This might very well be true, but if that's the case, Then what are you waiting for? Watch the tapes and say his name 3 times.